everyone. Welcome back to the Hashira Half Hour. Yes, we are back, and yes, we are going to talk about Dandadan today. However, I'm going to go a little off script here for a second and just say, yes, there was also some Demon Slayer news today. It was very small, but we just wanted to kind of say something really quick. But it has been officially confirmed that the, at least first movie, they didn't specify that it's movie number 1, so you never know, will be released in 2025. We don't know when in 2025. They did not give us a season, just the year. Are you excited?
January 1st, 2025. That's my prediction. Mm-hmm. They're going to drop it New Year's Day. I'm just kidding. That's probably not realistic, but I am super excited to share this story with people who have not read the manga. I think it's going to be definitely not what you're expecting, and we're going to see the resolution of a lot of character arcs and things like that, so that's going to be a really fun time. And Nika agrees. She says, bork bork.
She said, I have strong opinions about this. I know I wasn't alive for the last season.
Not been alive for any of Demon Slayer. Whoa.
Just a baby. She's just a baby. She's just a baby. Mm-hmm. I'm very excited. I don't know if we're setting ourselves up for success by hoping for January 1st. But perhaps in time for like all of our birthdays and anniversaries next year, late summer, early fall, something like that we could hope for. And it's going to be gorgeous. I'm sure it's going to be like a history-making moment because Demon Slayer's animation has just like really set the bar so high for so many others, and this is not going to be any exception. If anything, this will be possibly the best animation that they put out over the course of the entire show. So I'm really looking forward to seeing it.
Yeah.
So we need to have patience, is what you're saying.
Yes.
You know what they say, patience gets you nowhere fast.
That's true.
That was a song with Sephora, and anything you hear at Sephora or in music is true.
Obviously.
Duh. Anyway, we're super excited that Demon Slayer is getting its first announcement. This is the real first thing that we've gotten since the end of Hashira training, which means I do think that we will probably start to get more and more announcements as the months go on. We can expect probably our first real trailer. There was technically a trailer that came out with this, but there was literally no new visuals in it. It was all from the season finale, so we can expect probably the first one to come out in the spring or ish. Maybe Kimitsu Fest will happen in April and we'll all be there. Fingers crossed. But anyway, that's the Demon Slayer news. I'm expecting the fall. I'm just setting myself up for success now.
And maybe we'll be surprised and delighted.
Maybe it'll come out in the spring.
Who
You
knows?
never know. But I'm gonna say fall. Anyway, yay, Demon Slayer. Woo! That being said, hello everyone. I'm Hannah. Forgot to go over our introductions. I'm Hannah, and I'm excited to be here. I'm your favorite Okarun stan, by the way.
Hey, what's up? It's Brian from the Hashira Half Hour. Who am I helping out here? I'm the voice of unreason in your head.
We all need it. Sometimes. Sometimes we can be a little bad, have a little unreason. I'm Emily, guys. It's nice to be back here with you, and I'm excited to talk about some more Dandadan.
Yes, awesome. Well, we're gonna dive right in. Episode 4, we jumped in literally right where we left off. Okarun and Momo are arriving at Turbo Baba's residence, if you want to call it that. But we get a little bit of arguing from them on the way in. I think he said, "No, ladies first," in English, and I had a little chuckle from that. Before we're able to really figure out our differences as they argue like an old married couple, we are met with Turbo Baba in her Titan form. Like, that's the only thing I could think of was, like, these giant heads just sitting there. It looked like the freaking, like, pure Titans. But then her eyes turn into mouths, and I'm like, okay, now we're Gyoka? What the heck, Turbo Baba?
This is like, I don't know how to describe this, like, kind of like Junji Ito body style horror. It's giving, like, a lot of, like, creepy, grungy kind of vibes. And I think that this show does really well of balancing the aspects of horror and comedy. I think there was a documentary that I'm still wanting to watch from Shudder, but it's talking about like evaluating all the horror movies and stuff. And I think this could fall into it because it has all of these occult weird things, but it almost brings them to light in a mainstream view where it's easy to consume them and like laugh at them. So that way people can like kind of explore and use their imagination as to things maybe unknown or unseen.
That's very nice and very different than what I'm gonna say. She's a brick, house, tunnel. That's like she is one with the wall. That's like
she is in the wall.
She is wall. She is wall. Yeah, I love though the transition in like the animation style, and it's all cohesive, but there is definitely like a very separated. The style I feel does separate between like when they're just kind of being normal, when they get to be normal kids for once, and then when some crazy shit like this happens. And it's like the shapes like contort and the color scheme totally changes, and it's really scary. It's like it's very frightening, and it's definitely one of the scenes that we've seen with Turbo Baba that to me is like the most witch-like so far, like something otherworldly and still distinctly feminine though. It's very interesting. Very interesting, very witch-like, very scary.
Yeah. I would agree with what you said about like the comedy and the creepiness kind of being intertwined in the show. I literally just made a reel on Instagram about how Dandadan is like 1 minute you're crying, the next minute you're laughing, the next minute you're freaked out. Like that's just the way the show is. And this opening, you know, definitely continues that trend. So things get really, really bad really quickly because she's instantly trying to kind of close in on them, and she's also blocking both of the like entrances / exit, so they like have no way out anymore, which again is kind of cool. And her powers are really interesting here since she's like a spirit bound to this place, so she can literally control everything involving this tunnel rather than just be fast and creepy. Like she can close them in, which is really, really interesting and reminds me of episode 1 when he started running and then it looked like he was getting farther away from the exit, and that was because of her ability. So kind of a cool callback to there, but it does seem like they're about to get eaten by the eye mouths. But Momo remembers she actually needs to taunt Turbo Baba a little bit and kind of say like, we're gonna play tag, because Turbo Baba apparently can't say no to like a, you know, I'm gonna try to outrun you. Well, of course she's gonna say yes, try to outrun me, because she's competitive like that. So Turbo Baba does accept, and they come up with some rules. But Turbo Baba immediately starts to follow the rules, but not follow the rules because Momo did not go into explicit detail about the length of 10 minutes, because I guess you technically have to do that in this case. Because Turbo Baba goes off of those rules, she kind of instantly catches Momo. But Okarun has a plan. He, well, you know, what did he do? I don't want to say it.
Why not?
Okay. He shouts, I'm gonna suck on those teats.
Mmm.
I mean, it worked.
Delicious.
It certainly did grab everybody's attention. Turbo Baba's like, we're over here like, sweet innocent boy. Does he even really know what that means? He probably does, actually. He probably does.
He's a high schooler.
He's a high school boy.
He knows. He's a nerdy occult follower, but...
What? Say it.
Say it.
Why not? The episode's already rated E.
Oh, okay. I was just like, you know, those nerdy boys, they own those websites, you know.
TurboBaba.com.
Baba4pleasure.com.
Wiki.com. I'm holding space for this. Oh.
Oh my god, this is so... Stop it.
Oh boy.
Yeah, this kind of reminds me of Kakagurui, the gambling anime, because like the malicious compliance of the rules, right? And so in order to beat malicious compliance, you know, you have to also be just as wacky and just as crazy. So this is kind of brilliant on his end to just throw another curveball out there. That was excellent.
Well, and it does seem to kind of work originally. You know, like she's kind of shocked, and it seems like she can't possess him in the way that she has been doing because he was in the like spiritual garb that Momo's grandma put him in. Like, she couldn't really get to him, so she, like, ripped it off and then possessed him. And once again, it's like all hope is lost. But then Momo comes back, because Momo had been swallowed and now she is fighting back. This show just continues to kind of change my, not opinion, but, like, where I think it's gonna go. Every time I think that Okarun, he's kind of on his own, and it's like, all right, dude, like, it's time for you to really power up and, like, truly figure out what you're doing, he still ends up getting saved by Momo. So what do you think of that?
We love a strong, independent woman. I know that, like, Okarun's transitions and everything are really cool and interesting, but I would actually argue that Momo seems to be the main character of the show, and does so. Obviously, she still has power, but it's not visually as cool as, like, what Okarun has going on. So I just think that maybe she hasn't gotten the appreciation that she really deserves, but I think this is her show, and
Okarun's just living in it.
And maybe that's part of why we're getting surprised at some of the things that happen, and emotionally moved by some of them as well. But she's kicking ass, taking names. I love seeing it.
Yeah, I agree. I saw a Reddit post that was like, we're not paying enough attention to her. And I was like, agreed, because I think kind of the same thing with, like, Demon Slayer and a lot of those things. Like, we see how, like, characters who might have this more compelling story or maybe not enough screen time become favorites, but, like, those who are, like, driving the story forward maybe don't get paid enough attention to. You know, Shinobu, who doesn't have, like, the coolest breathing form, but is, like, so integral to how the story has progressed so far, doesn't get, like, that fandom status, if you will. So, Momo, I see you.
And I appreciate you. No, I think Momo is technically the main character. I think it's so hard for us to kind of change our mindset, because this is a shonen, and shonen means young boy, which is not necessarily meaning that the main character has to be a young boy. It just means that that's the target audience. And so that's why we see most of shonen main characters being the young boys, is because that's what the target audience will most likely relate to. So it's nice to really see. I feel like this is one of the first mangakas that is recognizing that shonen, while it still has that target audience, is reaching a lot more people than that. And that means that you can kind of test out having slightly different main characters and that sort of thing. But I do believe Momo is technically, like, officially the main character of this show. Okarun is just there because the editors told him he had to have a male character there to keep that part of the fandom interested, or something along those lines. I'd have to relook at that interview, but it's still really interesting. Okarun has, like, the cool ability, but Momo has the strength and the abilities to keep fighting back when Okarun's kind of down for the count. But Momo is able to control her for now. Turbo Baba has another trick up her sleeve, and she sends, it was like a crab kind of like chasing after them. So these are, like, more of her little minions that she has kind of in her arsenal, I guess you could say. With some teamwork, Momo and Okarun are kind of able to take this crab down, only to be met with another trick and more of something that's in Turbo Baba's arsenal of, like, zombie type people there that were trying to keep them from leaving the town, whatnot. What follows is one of the wildest action chase sequences I've seen in anime in quite a while, complete with some Beethoven. What did you think of that whole sequence there?
We love to see kaijus, first and foremost. We got our crab monster real quick, and he got steamed. It was unfortunate.
Yeah.
Unfortunate,
like,
but delicious.
Roasted. They're like, let's take a bite now.
And he's, like, KO'd, like, rip buddy. That's rough, buddy. And then the zombies, because crabs aren't enough. And then, like, we've got, like, the friggin', like, Spider-Man, like, train chase scene, riding on top of the trains, the getaway. What else could you want, really?
Kind of a little bit of everything.
What else could you want? The music was hysterical. It was a great choice. I love, though, when animes throw in, like, classical music into the mix. It just becomes instantly iconic. Because it's unexpected, I think, most of the time. This is a great one. Obviously, like, a really, really famous one is, like, in Hunter x Hunter, when Chrollo's, like, conducting over the city. And it's become, like, a major meme now. But like, it just always works so well. And I think this show leans into being goofy. Also, like, to an extent. It also can be serious very well, but I think something about like the music just made it like kind of funny, kind of slapstick, and really enticing to watch.
The way I was glued to the screen during this scene
me too.
was crazy. I think, that contrast is created by such a serious tone from the music, but also such like a goofy visual is just so cool to see. And I think this anime does well because it doesn't take itself too seriously. I think that's what's important, is that like it can execute on these really difficult concepts for humans, not just like the horror aspect of it, but like life itself, because it doesn't put the pressure on itself. And I think that's a really cool aspect of this anime, whether it be with kaijus and the monsters we fight, or the monsters in ourselves, which I'm sure we'll talk about later. There's just so much that makes this anime so different, and every time I watch it, I am just like, I can't look away.
Yeah, I feel like every episode kind of diverts my opinion and my predictions of the show. It very much keeps me interested because it keeps doing things that's a little bit different. And I do have to call out this sequence where they're kind of running and escaping, but also fighting while he's in his transformed state, and Momo has these like giant hands, and they're using that to kind of fly around, I have to say though, when they had that moment of like switching back between regular Okarun and his transformed, and it was like flashing, and of course we got the Hanai-san battle cry that we all have come to know and love very well, because it's not the first time we've heard that, nor will it be the last. But just really, really well done. One of my favorite moments as we sit here and talk about this episode, we've already seen all the way through episode 10, so we have a lot of the show that we've seen so far, and this still remains one of my favorite moments so far. It was just altogether very well done. We were able to kind of escape the situation. Okarun is out of stamina and just completely out. He's out. He's done. He's out for the count. And they are backed into a corner when Momo once again remembers the goal. She needs to get Turbo Baba out of this town because of the whole laws of how their magic system works, which I'm not going to be able to explain very well here, so I won't. I thought personally when she saw that train, she was gonna like grab it and like crush someone with it. And then she was like, no, the train actually can go faster because this is a bullet train, a Shinkansen. Can move faster than Turbo Baba's maximum speed, apparently. However, then it's like, oh, but on corners it slows down, so Turbo Baba thinks she's about to catch up, but that is when we see that Grandma Seiko is Momo's grandma's name, is waiting at the border, ready to take her on. And quite easily, it seems, have we defeated Turbo Baba here.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. Small side tangent. I very quickly and very equally as quickly got into and out of sports betting.
I of all the things you could have possibly gone with for the end of that sentence, that was like at the bottom of my list.
You just dawned it on me and completely diverted my expectations.
So I'm ready. What I'm saying is I'm ready for the rest of the story.
Okay, so I bought a shirt from Fanatics, and they were like, hey, congrats, you bought something for us. We have a sports book. Here's $100. Accidentally bet all $100 on the first bet. Didn't mean to, only meant to bet 10. Whatever. Besides that, and then there was like home field advantage, and I was like, I didn't know that was a thing in betting, but like that makes sense. Home field advantage, you're gonna be able to have it, and I think that's really cool that this is like almost like the sentimental value of your home creates a power for yourself. I don't know if that's it, or I don't know if it's the territory and all of the signs that maybe Grandma Seiko's put up throughout her home have been like infested throughout the rest of the city, whatever it may be. It's a really interesting concept to put that like barrier up. Definitely gives me the JJK vibe of like there's this physical distance in which you have your own power, which is super cool.
I thought that this was some great quick thinking. This is again why we put women in charge, but unfortunately Turbo Baba is also a woman with many years of wisdom. And so, like, is she dead?
TBD.
Was she alive in the first place? I mean...
She's a ghost.
So
I guess that means that she was alive at one point, but is now dead.
So now she's a double ghost.
Aww.
She woke up dead.
Huh?
She woke up dead.
She woke up like this.
Yeah, I will admit, I was kind of sitting there, I'm like, maybe this is just, once again, like, we have different big bads here, but it definitely surprised me that it seemed it wasn't easy by any means. Like, there were a lot of close calls during this, but at
Yeah.
the same time, to defeat someone who's been kind of set up as the big bad of the show over these first few episodes within one episode. I guess we're also used to anime time, where these battles take place over 10 plus episodes.
Yeah.
So definitely interested to see where that goes. That's kind of like, we're closing out on episode 4 already, but before we move on to episode 5, we do like send Turbo Baba off into the afterlife. And I thought the afterlife, I don't, like, wasn't she already in the afterlife? I don't really know how that works, but this was interesting because we kind of sit here and reflect a little bit on her main goal, and I'm kind of trying to recall this from memory right now. I don't remember if I caught on to this quite the way that I think they meant, but from what I was gathering, when they like defeated her at that border, there we saw like these souls released of these young girls. And what I've gathered, I don't remember if they like explicitly said this or if it was just something that I gathered from the internet, but she was like absorbing the souls of young girls who were victims of like SA. And even though it seems she didn't really go about it the right way, it seems maybe she was like actually trying to protect these young women from their aggressors. So often in anime, after the villain is defeated, we kind of see their background. We start to see that maybe, you know, they were just human, and they maybe had some good motives but didn't make the right choices or make the right actions. So how do you think like this kind of aligns with other animes, and what did you gather from this scene in general regarding Turbo Baba?
I think that it really helped to shift my perspective on the show. I think we all know that I was pretty critical of the first episode. And I still think that there is room to ask, like, what is this for? Who is this serving? And, like, why do we need to see this? Because you have a responsibility when you're sharing. And, like, with a platform as large as this, like, it does matter. So do I love the first episode? No, I still don't. But does this help explain a little bit why something like that might have been included? I think so, and I do think that I can't remember if it was from the internet either, but I do think that that's what they were insinuating with Turbo Baba, is that it's like this folk tale almost come to life, that she obviously has become a monster because of the circumstances, but she's also this protector of these young women who have probably left some really negative feelings in and around that tunnel, where bad things have probably happened. So either she's the manifestation of all of that, all those negative feelings, kind of like JJK's curses, or she's come to serve like some greater purpose. But I think that it makes her a lot more compelling and interesting, and I think it helps a little bit to justify some of what we've seen so far.
Respectfully, I want to like approach the space of this because like I'm a man talking about something that I'll never experience, right? But like I think she, like, tell me if I'm wrong, but I think Turbo Baba is also supposed to represent like the rage women feel for their position.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah.
I think it's, if you didn't catch it that way, I encourage you to try and view it from the point of, this is the cards that they've been dealt, and we were dealt a full house or they were dealt a pair. You have to be able to recognize like the differences in the power structure of our own society, and I think this was definitely something that was like, oh, okay. Not that I wasn't aware of this before, but it gives me a deeper awareness now.
And like, why would she want to take what she took? There's a funny answer, which is probably what a lot of people think at the beginning. And then there's like this answer, which is more uncomfortable.
It definitely has a multi-level meaning, I think, behind this, and I think that it is starting to kind of put the pieces together of, I agree with Emily, like, I wasn't the biggest fan of episode 1. I remember like sitting there in that room, watching it, kind of like holding out and seeing like that kind of start to come to fruition is better, but also I still wonder why we even have to do what we did in episode 1. Anyway.
Yep, I agree.
It's storytelling, fiction, and all of that kind of stuff. Like, there's a lot of nuance in it, and there's a lot of gray. Most of fiction is gray. I always am someone who's a firm believer in that, but you have to really be very careful when you write in these kinds of themings, and doing it right off the bat at the very beginning can very much seem like you're just doing it as a gag, doing it as something like that. But this episode, to me, while it didn't completely forgive how I felt in the first episode, it helped me kind of understand maybe where that part of the story came from, because you also have to think about the fact that Turbo Baba had overtaken Okarun in that first episode, and she was like pushing into that room through a phone to save this girl. So it does kind of humanize her as well, like from episode 1, and maybe kind of foreshadowed that. But anyway, I just thought that was kind of an interesting little tidbit at the end, and definitely changed my perspective a little bit of just the story as a whole and where we're gonna go from here. So still not fully forgiven, but it makes a little bit more sense of that episode. But nonetheless, we do move into episode 5. We are right back at school. And the assumption is everything's going back to normal at this point, because Turbo Baba's been defeated. We can assume Okarun has been restored fully. However, not everything has gone back to normal, because now both Momo and Okarun have realized that they have new friends in each other. Things seem to be going well. Before the first class, they're just kind of having a conversation as they long to speak to each other during the class, because they're in different classes. Seriously, this moment is when I was like, am I watching a shoujo anime? We have the most hilarious sequence, though, of them trying to find each other during a break. How can someone have no spatial awareness that you can sit so close to each other with just like a little walkway separating you and have no idea that the other is there?
I mean, low-key though, I definitely have been that lost in thought before that I wouldn't notice or like be actively listening, because you're just like, man, where is he? And it's hysterical. I mean, we're like leaning into the comedy again with this, and it's cute too, because it's like, even if there's not, and I think that there is a little bit of a romantic element here, but even if there's not and it's just like best friends, it's cute. It's endearing that they want to see each other so badly, and they're like just barely missing each other. Like it's just cute. They're putting in all this effort to try to find the other, and I love to see it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this kind of reflects real life. You know, they say life imitates art. The number of passings you do each day and like day-to-day public of people you pass, or like probably like Emily and I at the office, like we've probably like just gotten off of elevators, and then like you were in the same elevator. Those invisible strings, if you will, that connect all of us are really interesting. Side story, one time I was eating trail mix, and I was getting on the elevator, and then all of a sudden I was like, oh, hi, Emily, and then and she was in the elevator, so I eventually found her.
Yeah, I thought it was extra funny how they made it a point to be like, okay, this one is saying, I'm going to go to the co-op, while the other one's saying, I'm going to go to the cafeteria, and then they each went there and then decided to go to the other place afterwards, so they were literally like just missing each other. It was silly. It was cute. It was a nice little like, okay, we're right back at it. We're right back in school, just chilling. Everything seems normal. But they do finally see each other by hitting each other's teeth.
Ugh.
That sounds so painful, honestly. Which is practically a kiss in my mind. And I know you said that you're not sure if it's like romance or not. I'm 100% on the romance bandwagon. Like, I ship these two so hard. In my mind, they're canon now. Just kidding. The show continues to give us whiplash, though, because it's been all cute, it's been all fluffy, and then they start yelling at each other. Because they can't remain normal around each other. Again, sometimes when you have a crush on someone, that shows in this kind of way. So anyway, they start yelling at each other. They get super mad. Momo's friends is like, oh my gosh, they really like each other. We see Okarun make a stop at the bathroom on his way to class first. He's made an interesting discovery. We don't know exactly what it is at this point. We just notice that he goes, uh-oh. And he runs to class where Momo is, and she's got all these friends around her. He tries to tell Momo. He's telling her that it's important. But she is mad and embarrassed. So she continues to tell him she doesn't want anything to do with him. She doesn't want to talk to him. And then he kind of sadly remarks that, so this is what you feel comfortable doing in public. Like, you're kind of embarrassed to be seen with me. Come on, Momo.
I think it's a difficult position for Momo, because like it's one thing to be upset with someone, but then like the image you create when you are upset with someone and the portrayal of your status of your relationship with them is difficult as well. So it's like, I don't know if it's mainly that she's like embarrassed, because Momo doesn't seem like she really cares about other people's opinions. I think it happened to be that Momo was upset with Okarun in this moment, and it also just played out that it seemed like she was like not well with him in general.
Yeah, I mean, she's a teenage girl, and she is like a popular teenage girl as well, or at least like, if not popular, like at least relatively considered among the normal people in the school, and he's not. He's a nerd, and is regarded as such by his peers. And I don't think that she's embarrassed to be friends with him necessarily, because she stepped up in that way in front of the other people already, but I think that the perception is that they're dating. It's something entirely different. And the question becomes why, because it is like the clash of the cliques. If he doesn't even really have a clique, poor guy is like alone. But even if the beginnings of the buds of those feelings are starting to blossom, it's like you just care about different stuff when you're a teenager. I don't know, like you care about the popularity game and you care about how things are perceived, and they're not dating right now. So like there is an element of truth to that, and I don't think that he's perceiving it that way just yet, because he's like a little bit of a blockhead, but she knows what the implications are. And again, just coming back to like the theme that we've been talking about, she lives a different experience as a girl, and like the expectations that are placed on her than like even him, even though he's like ostracized and bullied. She's not treated that way so far, but definitely could be depending on the man that she's associated with.
Yeah, I think she was just also very overwhelmed because like her friends were kind of pushing the like romance thing on her, and at this point in time she doesn't think that's what it is, and maybe that isn't what it is as of right now. So there has been a lot of blushing though, which in anime is usually a sign of some kind of feelings, but she is also a high school girl that at that age you don't really know what those feelings really are yet, unless you spend a lot of time thinking about romance. And she doesn't really strike me as someone who, well, maybe she does. She does have this like weird inability to think when she hears the name Ken Takakura. So, you know, but she's just overwhelmed, and I think Okarun also is kind of misunderstanding the situation as well. But it does seem to him like she's just kind of like, oh, when she's around her group of friends, she doesn't want to have anything to do with him. And that can hurt someone who is normally very alone and normally very ostracized by the people. So a lot of misunderstandings are happening. It's high school. They're teenagers. You know, it's going to happen. But don't worry, because we are going to be introduced to a new character. I don't know if it... We get introduced to this pink-haired girl who, originally when I saw her, I was like, why do you look like Momo with pink hair and pink eyes? Because I practically feel like they're related, but it turns out they're not. But her name is Ida. She seems to be making a move on Okarun, like instantly, like they run into each other, and she's like being very, very sweet and kind and cute and making Okarun blush like nobody's business. Momo walks up, of course, while she's like hanging on to him, so she's already getting the wrong idea as well. She starts to walk away, and as she walks away, she makes these remarks that, oh, did you see the way he fell all over me? And wow, I'm just so easy. Like the boys are so easy to just have them fall in love with me. Did you see that nerd? Blah, 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 blah. And Momo hears this, and Momo pulls out. I've never cheered for something like this before, but she uses her ability to take, I guess it was like a wash bucket, and drop it straight on this girl's head. She does that, and then she grabs Okarun by the arm and says, let's go. Let's get out of here. And it seems like they're kind of back to normal as well. What'd you think of that? The character introduction and all that that ensued in that short, like, 2 minutes.
Kids are mean, man. They're just like, and this is like, again, that popularity game, and it's like, just mean to him for no reason. She's going to be an interesting character, but she's kind of a bitch in this first scene. And I think Momo was justified, even if it might have been a felony in some places. But who's going to know? They're never going to know.
They're going to know.
How would they know? How would they know?
Stay tuned.
Ida is one of my favorite characters, actually, in the show.
Oh, no.
Because she's... Maybe I'm jumping a little bit ahead, but she believes she's the main character in her own anime, and that's how I live my life. Someone was like, everyone should be the main character of their own life, and everyone else is a side character. And I was like, that makes sense, but don't do it narcissistically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's like a balance to it, but I think it's so funny just the way she thinks that she's like, I'm the chosen one.
Yeah. Yeah, I will admit, if we talk, you know, where we're at in the show right as of this moment, not what we're talking about now, I'm more inclined to say she's cool, but this is a tough introduction to her, because we've already grown to love Okaru, and we've seen that he's been getting bullied. So when we see someone straight up do that, really, and, like, backstab him after she, like, makes him be in a position that's kind of almost awkward because, like, a girl is touching him. He's a teenage boy, like, you know.
Yeah.
It was definitely rough, and I definitely very much cheered Momo on for what she did. Even though, is that the answer? No.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, Momo has grabbed Okaru and been like, let's get out of here. We're going to walk home together. I still wonder where his home is, because every time they're like, let's walk home together, he just ends up at her house. So I'm waiting for that big reveal of what's going on with his family. But we finally get to what his revelation was in the bathroom and what he needed to tell her. His balls are gone. So Turbo Baba possibly is still alive. Really funny scene is how he tells her that, and then it like instantly switches to them at her house, and she cannot stop laughing. And it's just very chaotic because they're talking, like, he's like, no, my shaft is back. I think that was what the subtitle said, and I was just like, what is happening? My shaft is back, and Seiko is like, I gotta see it, and he's like, I don't want you to see it. And then finally she's like, no, we gotta look inside your soul, because it seems as if there's something going on inside of him, like there is something. But what a chaotic scene, and what an introduction to the idea that maybe Turbo Baba is still alive.
No balls. Literally. It's unfortunate. But,
It's rough, buddy.
she wasn't gonna go down that easy, though. Turbo Baba wasn't gonna go down, or something. Either that or something else is messing with him, which, that's also, like, a frightening possibility. It's like, why are there so many things conspiring to steal this underage boy's genitals? So is it a good thing if it's Turbo Baba? Probably not. Is it worse if it's something else? Maybe yes.
There's so many jokes I want to make, but I'm like, focus.
Remain strong, brothers.
Yeah, I think this is just such a wild series of events. With Okanon being who he is, having to show off what's going on with his dilemma and his, you know, private parts, it's very difficult for him to let go of, like, the sense of shame almost that comes from societal standards of, like, body image and things like that. So I think part of this is, like, while it's super funny to think about, like, oh, his, like, dick's there, but his balls aren't, it's just, like, there's also, like, pokes at, like, I don't know, shame about, like, sex and, like, these things that are just, like, natural.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. I mean, if this is still Turbo Baba, I feel like it kind of goes back to what we were talking about at the end of last episode, is that maybe, like, she thinks she's doing the right thing, it's just a little bit misplaced, you know?
Yeah.
And that, like, kind of goes along with, like, what it seems like her major goals were. But Seiko is going to look into his soul. They get him all set up with his feet in the water, and we finally get to see the cat that is in the closing credits. And Momo was able to see that there's, like, this extra aura inside of him. And so they hit him very hard with, like, a bat or something. And Momo sees it come out, but doesn't know where it goes. So then they kind of have to chase it around the house. She's able to use, like, her newfound abilities to try and catch it, sees that it's in the, like, coat closet, whatever it was. And it is Turbo Baba. Turbo Baba was still alive. She had pretty much just given some of her aura to Okaru in that final moment, knowing it kind of reminds me of, like, Rui and Demon Slayer, like, severing his head right before Tanjiro can do it, you know? It's like, you thought I'm better than you. Anyway, and she has possessed this cat. We finally know what this cat is. Yay, it's Turbo Baba.
Woohoo!
But after a little bit of threatening from her, saying, you know, you thought you got me, but I'm still too powerful, she tells Okarun to, like, kill Momo and Seiko, and he has this, like, crazy transformation just right there. Like, he's just standing there, and he, as she's like, you gotta kill them, just goes, bloop, right into his newfound, his transformation. Meaning, he still has her power. The cat just has her consciousness. My, how the turntables?
This was just super cool. I love this, like, almost a little bit like all for our one for all, kind of like passing of the power, passing of the torch. And I think kind of looking towards the future, right, you have someone, Turbo Baba, who was working on doing right by people who were wronged. And while is Okarun the candidate I would have chosen? No. Is he the candidate we needed? Maybe. And so, with that being said, I think he might be able to take, like, that hatred and that rage that women feel and channel that into being a positive force to actually save people without maybe going too far.
I was really trying not to go there this episode, but I just have to. I'm like, it's so hard to not see everything that Turbo Baba does as being, like, entirely Luffy coded. Because the voice is, like, like, it's very, very slightly different, but it's basically the same. And honestly, the way that she's acting is pretty much on par for the course as well. It's like, haha, you thought you got me. And they're like, we kind of did get you. You're in this tiny cat now. She's like, but I have his balls. So who's the real winner now? Riddle me this.
Everyone has bargaining chips in this situation.
Bargaining chips, bargaining balls. What can we say? But it's like, again, like a silly moment, but at the same time, it's like, let's maybe not totally underestimate this little cat figure, but also, yes, that does raise the question, like, why can Okarun still transform? What's going on there?
Yeah, so Seiko's like, hey, I think you just have your consciousness in this cat. He still has your ability, which means you're powerless. So Momo instantly takes that on. Funny how, like, Turbo Baba switched to, like, yes, sensei! All of a sudden, it was so funny. She's, like, instantly worried and scared. But Momo takes the opportunity to strike a deal with Turbo Baba now that they have some bargaining chips, as in, you know, she doesn't really have her power. She's just kind of a helpless little doll at this point. This is the end of the episode. Momo's like, okay, we'll give you your powers back if you give us Okarun's balls back. And she's like, I agree. And then Momo's like, okay, give it to us. And she says, they're scattered throughout the city. Is that gonna be our, like, we're looking for the new goal of the show? You know how every show has a goal, like Demon Slayer is to turn Nezuko into a human. Jujutsu Kaisen, it's to, what's the goal of Jujutsu Kaisen?
Defeat curses.
Defeat Sukuna, I would say. Like, get all the fingers and defeat Sukuna, right? Chainsaw Man, he wants to touch some boobs. Dan, we need to find Okarun's balls. Here we go?
Here we go. One at a time, ladies. Literally, we're gonna find them separately.
Yeah, it's something that gets revealed. Or it doesn't really get revealed, it's just, like, kind of a known fact. I did not expect that to be like, oh, you have to find all of them.
All two of them. I hope. I don't know.
This could be like the One Piece.
Two piece.
Left ball, right ball.
Yeah, I mean, that's the end of the episode. So, here we go.
Is it favorite moments time?
Yeah?
I would say a favorite moment definitely has to be when we had the Beethoven chase scene.
Yeah.
I know it might be everyone's favorite moment, but it was just so good to watch. It was amazing.
It was really just, like, a little bit of everything. Wonderful soundtrack, voice acting, animation, just, like, the excitement of everything. It was very well done.
Obviously, that's a really great moment. Like, all of the action sequences that we've seen are gorgeous, and they put a lot of work into it, but I'm gonna pick a funny one. I love when Momo's grandma, like, she's like, well, there's only one way to do this. To get Turbo Baba out, she's like, I'm gonna have to beat the shit out of you with this. He's like, wait. My poor man gets, like, so beat up, but it's like, just something about that just tickles me the right way.
Poor Hana-san characters, they all just always are getting beat up.
They always get beat up.
Yeah.
There's always some, like, crazy older person ready to rag on them, and she was ready. She didn't even blink. She's like, well, yep.
Literally.
It's crazy. All good moments. I do just have to really quickly say a side note, because you brought up the Luffy voice actor and how it seemed like very Luffy coded what Turbo Baba was doing. I have to go back to like the beginning of this episode, I think, when Okarun was saying like, I will forgive them. They will always be forgiven. And I was like, okay, Tanjiro. So, I feel like these voice actors, they're not typecasted, but they do oftentimes play characters that have like similar vibes to each other, I think. And Okarun definitely has a lot of Tanjiro vibes, I think. Anyway, my favorite moment was when Okarun transformed standing there, when he got really angry and just his like hand started like moving all funny, and then all of a sudden he was just sitting there, like just standing there, transformed. And they were like, you transformed? And he was like, I just got really angry. And then all of a sudden he was, oh, you're back. It was really like, it went really hard, but it was really funny and really cool. It was just like a mix of all of it. So I would say that was my favorite moment. But with that, I actually do have a Taisho era secret for this episode. So we were introduced to Aira in this episode, and fun fact, she is voiced in Japanese by Sakura Ayane, who is very, very good friends with Hanai-san. They've been voice acting together pretty much since both of them came onto the scene, and apparently his daughters call her Auntie, which is really sweet. But fun fact, she voices Gabby in Attack on Titan. Kind of checks out.
Of course. Not
gonna lie. And also, Hanai-san voices Falco in Attack on Titan as well. Also kind of checks out. So it's all coming together to be on that voice actor note that we were talking about just a few minutes ago. But that's your Taisho era secret. Yay. Support the voice actors, whether you watch sub or dub. Show them some love. But with that is it for today's episode. Guys, if you liked this video, don't forget to, if you're watching on YouTube, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment your thoughts on the episodes that we went over today. If you are listening on podcast platforms, don't forget to download the episode to your phone. That helps with our numbers a little bit, as well as give us an honest review of what you think of our podcast. We're looking forward to finishing up Dandadan, and we have many more animes that we want to talk about in the future. And of course, as we gear up for Demon Slayer at some point in 2025, that'll be happening as well. But with that, thank you so much for watching. Follow us on social media. We are at Hashira Half Hour on Instagram and TikTok, and Hashira Half on X. And that is Nika saying goodbye as well.
And with that, I say, dun 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 dun.
Dun 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 dun.
Dun 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 dun.
Alright.
They have a generational run with these theme songs that they're writing, by the way.
Yes.
Let me just say. Shout out.
Shout out.